I was in physics class, and the teacher was saying, bumblebees can't fly. It's impossible. Aerodynamically, they can't fly. And I was on the second floor of the classroom, and I looked out the window, and there was a big, beautiful bumblebee staring at me right in the eye. And he was doing something that this guy said he couldn't do. I've never forgotten that lesson. And so from then on, I understood that, well, he was right. They can't fly. They levitate. The bumblebee, when he starts to beat his wings, when he starts to flap his wings, there's a little cavity, a hollow cavity next to the larynx inside his system that's hollow. And when he beats his wings, he starts to resonate this energy, and it goes back and forth, just similar to somebody hitting a high C and breaking a crystal. It's the same thing, it's resonant. What they do, they resonate. And when they resonate, they eventually reach the resonance of the field around them. The Earth is operating on a frequency of 8.5 hertz per second or so forth. Once this bumblebee hits that resonant frequency of its surroundings, it becomes a free agent. It creates a magnetic bubble around itself, and it can go anywhere it wants. Well, that's not in any of the science books. You probably never see it there either, but that's what happens.
With a little radar transponder, which means that
first of all, the bees are flying much faster than predicted, an incredible 30 miles an hour. Even really clever. In spite of 30-mile-an-hour crosswinds, whether out or back, they all fly.
Oh, you're right. You know, I've been hearing this rubbish about global warming for so long. It's just driving me nuts. But there's actually a cycle that's going on. It has nothing to do with humans. There's a cycle that was discovered back in the 1970s by a group called CLIMAP, Climate Long Range Investigation, Mapping and Prediction. And there were about 200 different institutions and universities involved. It was spearheaded by people at Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory. What they did is they drilled deep cores into the ocean floor and pulled up sediments from the last 500,000 years. And they discovered that ice ages have returned almost like clockwork every 23,000 years with a smaller ice age, if you will, every 11,500 years. If scientists would put this well-known cycle into their computer models, we'd be seeing an entirely different scenario. We would be seeing that we're headed for an ice age. And this is, when we're saying colder or snowier, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be colder, but it's going to be snowier and a lot more precipitation. It's called the Milankovitch cycle. This is not something that, as I said, it's not something I discovered. It's called the Milankovitch cycle, and I think almost every geologist in the world has probably heard of that cycle.
Absolutely. The Earth axis completes one full cycle of the precessional approximately every 26,000 years. At the same time, the elliptical orbit rotates more slowly. Then the combined effects of the two precession leads to a 21 or so thousand-year period between the seasons and the orbits, and this is connected to the Milankovitch cycle. But you mentioned obviously that there's a big kind of ice age and a minima one every 11,000 years or so. So which one do you think that we're kind of heading into here, the big one or the smaller one?
Well, the smaller one of 11,500 years ago killed about 40% of the larger animal species went extinct. So if we call that a small one, but yeah, it's the larger one that's due this time. It's the 23,000 year one. And by the way, as we enter into an ice age, it's marked by extremes, not just cold, not just snow, but extremes. So that in some areas of the world, for instance, there's a United Kingdom climatologist, H.H. Lamb, that wrote several books on this, but he was talking about there have been times as we entered little ice ages where there would be the worst drought in 500 years. And then later that year, in the same area, they would have the biggest snowstorms in 300 years. So same area, same location, same year, and yet you can have these extremes. So I see all of these extremes as yet another indication that that's where we're headed right now.
Most efficient heat pump and developed it, and these are the evaporators for that heat pump right here. They're 8 feet high, 3 feet wide. Now the refrigerant we put in here boils at 40 degrees below zero. Therefore, anytime, day or night, outside in a rainstorm or in a windstorm or hailstorm or a snowstorm, or just out on a nice hot sunny day or in the middle of a cold night, as long as the refrigerant that's inside this panel is colder than whatever the air is out here or the phenomenon that's hitting this panel, then the heat from the air or the sun or the wind or the rain or the sleet or the snow will be transferred into the refrigerant on the other side, because it's the second law of thermodynamics. Hot goes to cold. So if this is the coldest thing outside, anything out there that touches it is going to give its heat to it. A little bit of heat goes a long way. That gas starts expanding like crazy, and as it expands, it then is drawn into the compressor, not through suction. I've got engineers and inventors that don't like to use the term suction, but through negative pressure. So as the compressor is creating this negative pressure, the gas is migrating to it. And so a compressor is a gas pump. It'll pump gas. And so the gas is being pumped by the compressor into the compressor, elevated in temperature. And even though if you touch this panel, it's ice cold to your hand, and if you touch the line going out of the panel, it's still ice cold to your hand. When it hits that compressor takes all the gas in this space, puts it in that space, elevates the pressure and the temperature. Going out of the compressor, do not touch that line whenever that thing is on, because it's 200 to 250 degrees.